Good morning, everyone. My name is Jake, and I am the host of the BAF Podcast, a podcast about all things college and blockchain. For today's episode, we have our first guest of the podcast, Dr. Michael Chitavi. In today's episode, Professor Chitavi will tell us all about blockchain and how it's being used in the U.S. military and on the campus at the Citadel. But first, a word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor for the podcast is BAF. BAF is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to accelerating the development and adoption of Web3. BAF hosts networking and educational meetups and supports blockchain clubs at universities worldwide. BAF sponsors and supports include NEAR and the Algorand Foundation, who help BAF launch more educational activities. Thank you to BAF for sponsoring this podcast. Our second sponsor is EduCoin. EduCoin is an LMS for decentralized teachers and learners, helping students and teachers connect using blockchain technology. For more information on them, visit educoinapp.com. All right, this is Jake, and I am here with Professor Michael Chitavi out of the Citadel, which is a military academy in Charleston, South Carolina. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you. Glad to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Of course. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey into the Web3 space?
Okay, so I have obviously a teaching background, but before that, I worked in private sector. My education before private sector was undergrad in mathematics and computer science, so a bit of coding. Then I went into accounting and consulting. Long story short, I tried to merge technology with finance and business. And I did a bit of that in security and assurance through the big consulting firms and KPMG. And then I worked for private sector in the Illinois area and worked in venture capital and private equity. And then I did my doctorate. And in my doctorate, I kind of decided to research the bridge between accounting, finance, and IT, which is basically computer programming and science, and looking at the markets. And that's how I kind of got hooked into new technologies for the markets. So by the time, decentralized ledgers were coming in and blockchain was coming in, I was right in the middle of that, doing some work on mobile money and, transfer of money through the phones, the traditional USSD, type things. And it was just a natural progression into what's new. So basically my research or the work I do focuses on finance and what's new in finance. And it just makes so much sense to now look and think in terms of things like Web 3.0, AI, machine learning, and whatever new technology that's coming in and how it fits into the old, mostly from the view of markets, financial markets, capital markets, but also from consumer finance and personal finance, and of course, education. So that's kind of my background. How did I get involved in the military? Well, the Citadel was hiring, and I like their mission, and I'm kind of mission type person. I like to get things done, and just seemed like a good fit. As I already kind of started explaining, I didn't serve in the Army or Navy, but, kind of like a mission person, and that seemed like a good fit to work with cadets. So that's my quick introduction.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like quite the background.
Yes.
So, I'll ask the question that I think I've been getting a lot as I talk to people before this podcast. The military, I think most people would think of the U.S. military as probably the most centralized organization, right? Massive budget, massive reach, run by the federal government largely. How do you see it benefiting from decentralized architecture? What role do you think blockchain will play or has played in the U.S. military from your observations?
So I think first, let's say I didn't serve in the military, so I'm not going to answer these questions more as an insider, but I answer the question from someone who is in the military environment and working with the military guys and examining how we can create knowledge and how we can exchange knowledge. My experience has been the military is not as centralized as you think. Yes, there is a bit of centralization, which is kind of the things you've described, but at its core, the military is very decentralized. The mission work they do, the work they do is set up to be decentralized. And as you can see, for example, the idea of battalions, companies, and eventually to a team unit is really decisions being made as close as possible to where the mission is really. So there are a lot of elements of just, how the military work that are essentially very decentralized. And an effective military is an effective combat team, and a combat team obviously gets direction, but it's very autonomous, as you know, because of the nature of the work that needs to be done. So I think that it's not accurate to say they are centralized. Yes, there's lots of centralization to create obviously the efficiency and the performance and what have you, but there are quite a number of very critical decisions that are done mostly by officers and by even the non-officers, warrant officers and what have you, that have a lot of decision making. That's one. But you also have to remember the military, is particularly the U.S. military is at the forefront of innovation.
Mm.
So a lot of people think the military doesn't innovate, but that's not correct. They are really deep in innovation. They are secretive, as they should. They can't reveal. But you look at some of the weapons and some of the things they do, they really follow the same principles of coming up with new ideas that are going to always keep you ahead, ideas that are going to keep you stronger. But I would even argue that the military is even more critical, because the decisions they have to make, the innovation they have to make is a life and death type thing. So business, yes, we are competitive, we do things, and the market is tough and crashing us and what have you. But in the military, the stakes are also very high, and the discipline obviously is high. And all this to sort of like set a stage for you why, how blockchain comes in and how Web3 comes in. The principles are sort of like, the same. And if we go deeper into cryptography and go deeper even into how computer science came about, and Alan Turing, which we teach in my class, you've been to my class.
Yeah.
Alan Turing, the guy who invented computer science, was all about creating a code that they could intercept for the Germany codes, where they were going to bomb the next day. So you'll see they go together. There's a need to innovate, there's a need to stay ahead, and Web 3.0 provides even more opportunities for communication, for cryptography, for design, for efficiency. All those good things that you see in Web 3.0 apply, in the armed forces in the United States, or any other armed force that wants to stay ahead and wants to be competitive. So these are my views.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talked on something there at the end that I kind of want to keep going deeper into, and also kind of ties to your background, which is the idea of security as well as cryptography, which is now being used largely in the space for finance. Yes. So I'd be interesting. You're someone who's worked in private markets, and you've worked in banking, you even stated. Is that at all relevant for, I guess, the military, or how are they maybe repurposing or using this DeFi technology or this cryptographic money that we've kind of see emerge out of the space?
Yeah, cryptography is key. Absolutely, secrecy and cryptography. So secrecy, or the desire or the problem is, how do you keep things secret, right? And the solution is you do encryption or do cryptography. The higher the keys, the better. So I think that's still, very relevant for the US military. They are bigger and deeper users of encryption, as you have correctly stated. The blockchains and the DeFis. There are many areas the military could use: supply chain or distribution, or organizing just the complexity of all the different pieces of the military, the units, the equipment. That's an area they could definitely use. Supply chain is a really big one for Army. And supply chain is not just technologies, it's also efficiency. Even if you want to move a lot of cargo and you want to organize ships around the world, the security is important. How you do that, secrecy is important, but you also need a strong technology that's stable, that's modern, easy, and using, the new things like AI, things that will interface with machine learning, and things that are going to be easy to work with, for the user, and all that applies to what they do in the Army. And I picked the Army because, of course, Army has to move a lot of things, but it can also apply to Air Force, and it can always apply to the Coast Guards. The different vehicles, the different large ships that the U.S. keeps in the world, across the globe. Those have to, move and be kept secret. So there is so much application with 3.0 can have for the military. But you got to remember, the military is not going to tell you what they are doing, and so you won't know. You won't know how they are using it. But absolutely, there are a lot of ways they could apply it. And yeah, the sky's the limit for them when it comes to these tools.
Awesome. And I went to you had a hackathon in your class, or some sort of an NFT use case event. Were the cadets excited about this? Is this something that on campus you got positive feedback on? What was their kind of viewpoint on maybe NFTs or starting to explore this technology at the Citadel?
Yeah, so thank you for coming to class, first of all, and making it a reality. There are a lot of students, a lot of community people who still don't understand NFTs. They are lost because obviously it came so fast after crypto. But there's a group that also thinks of NFT as art. You know, yeah. Let's see. I'd like to call them postcards, or the traditional gifting type cards that we give. But we're seeing a group that is very engaged in crypto. They are in the closet. They don't normally say, but they are very engaged, and the class was well received. We did a competition of 5 teams, 2 people per team, and the winning team had an idea of creating NFTs for the football game. So
Okay.
they won, and it was exciting, to just watch them discuss how football and the rest of the fans can be brought into the stadium, and how blockchain and Web 3.0 can increase that. There was a team that discussed fractionalization of the barracks, and yes, and then there was a team that wanted to fractionalize labor. In other words, get a pool of money and put it in a box, and then turn that money into NFTs, and cadets can work on campus, and then they get the NFTs.
Yeah, that was the team I advised. I like that idea. I thought it was cool because there's apparently limited amount. You can't work while you're enrolled in the academy. Is that correct? So it could kind of help with that problem, right, of distributing funds. Yeah.
There you are. Sorry, your team didn't win, but
It's okay. I wasn't a good enough
next
advisor.
next time. No, it was quite competitive. I think the Marines in the first team very difficult to beat those Marines, and I think there you go. But yeah, so I think there are use cases, and cadets, if they are given the opportunity to do NFTs, I feel like they could use them more, and they could also design their own, and they could create their own NFTs. And I feel like we could get the veterans involved as well. I don't know how we do that, so you got to wish us luck. But we are kind of in the discussions now to see how we perhaps start with a private blockchain and a private NFT exchange, and see how that grows within campus, and then open it as we see success and traction.
Amazing.
Yes.
So if the listeners couldn't tell, you do have a little bit of an accent. You come from an emerging market, and you told me you're really excited about the potential for Web3 to impact not just the US, but the world. Tell me a little bit about how you see this working in emerging markets, and kind of what experience you've had consulting on that front.
Correct. So my emerging market experience has been interesting in the sense that I kind of come from there, but I hadn't taken time to really understand how they were doing money until somebody called me and said, you got to tell me about, how you're doing money in your country. So I was sort of like thrown in. And I was thrown in during the mobile money phase, 2016, 2015. And then when I got down there to talk with the government guys, they said, Mike, why are you telling us about mobile money? You should be telling us about blockchain. Why are you asking about blockchain? And I was amazed. Like, who's blockchain? And it seemed like they were ahead. So that's the big surprise. They were ahead in adoption of newer tech. They like to do new tech a lot. I can tell you, my mom that's 80 years old, she can send #9+1F send, which is what they use to send money. They send money on mobile phones without internet. So they use a technology called USSD. So that means that they are already kind of on a different trajectory. The idea there, or the reason why there's that strong power and pull towards tech is because they don't have banks. 80% of the population there for many years didn't have bank accounts, and they didn't transact with checks. They didn't take loans in the bank. So anything that came that gave them sort of like introduction to intermediation, which is what a bank is, they just take it and just grasp it. So Web 3.0 is a strong candidate for strong adoption in this region of the world because it's another tech. And for them, they always want tech because to them, tech is a bank and tech means money. So think about it. Here in the US, there was a new system that said, hey, look, we're going to be giving you a chance to reset your credit score. That's how I like to explain it. What if someone could come up with a system that doesn't use the old credit score? I think many people would want to know, how do you do that? So the lending side is pulling the emerging markets, and Web 3.0 is a really interesting one for them. They are already interested in tech. So I see them doing adoption quickly. Last year, I did a whole, write-up on Kenya and technology in the Harvard Business Review. If you want the space, you can Google it.
We'll link it in the show notes. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So take a look. You'll see we are highlighting it together with the guys in Digital Initiative at Harvard, Business School. So I think I'm not just saying my opinions, but I think a few people share my view that the emerging market are going to be leading in the adoption, or at least in the initial uptake of Web 3.0.
Awesome. And are you working actively on any projects, or is there any projects you're kind of specifically scoping out right now that would kind of help with emerging markets, or you're consulting over there, or something you can disclose? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always, I've been doing that for many years. It's not easy. Sometimes as we fail totally. We create products and nobody wants them. So I failed before, and I think I'm not going to stop. So working on some wallets that they can use, and working on some tokenization, and the NFT I think is an interesting one as well, to see how they adopt it. I think it's me who's not doing it the correct way, because they seem to be doing it right. So I need to probably do a better job at these projects. And there's some other projects too that we think we can do jointly with the Citadel next year. So we'll look and see how those come along.
Awesome. Is there any recommendations you would have about working with emerging markets, or things people get wrong often in your experience?
I think if you want to do emerging markets, I would say, you want to be patient.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say be patient and understand government. Understand government. There's a great podcast one of my colleagues did on this topic. So if I'm plagiarizing him, that's probably because he spoke at length about this. He explained that, really understand government. Professor Osage Hakim, a very wealthy, known thinker on Africa, and he teaches Osage. And he explained this, understand the dynamics of government, but he also said understand the nature of the culture. So I think those three things can help you as you dip your toes in this water, and encourage you to do so. Why not? And yeah.
Awesome. And I guess kind of wrapping up as we head into the new year, is there any projects or things you're excited about in 2023, or things you'd like to see emerge from the Web3 space?
So I'd like to see something we can do in South Carolina. You and I have talked about this.
Yep.
We have potential, and there are people talking in Charleston and in the area, but I'd like to see something along the Low Country, getting some progress there. We started those conversations, as you know, with the company. You and I think we talked with them. Those guys are thinking about NFTs for the not-for-profit.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can advance that. I mean, Miami has a coin. New York is doing some things. South Carolina, maybe we could do some things. I don't know how those look like, but I'd be very excited to kind of do something local and see how that looks like in the Low Country. So, yes.
Absolutely. That's me and you both. Well,
Yes.
I thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you wanted to say before we wrap up today, or anything you wanted to promote?
Yeah, so I'd say thank you for the opportunity. We're going to do a few more of these podcasts. So look out for our other podcasts. And if you have any other topics you want us to talk about, absolutely reach out to Jake or find me online, whichever way, and let me know if there's something we can speak about. And we can continue to engage and get this Web 3.0 and all these other technologies to become ubiquitous.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for your time, and we talk real soon.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks for listening. This has been week 1 of the BAF Podcast. If you have any questions about our sponsors or our guest on today's show, please check the show notes. And remember that BAF and EduCoin are here to make the world a better place and help colleges transition to a Web3 world. So give us a shout out if you need any help with that. Thanks, and have a great day.